I guess I should start with a bit of background about my life with Lisa. We had been married for 5 years, and on the surface, it looked pretty great. We lived in a modest home in a nice neighborhood, both had decent jobs, and we enjoyed the typical married couple routine. Sure, like any couple, we had our moments of tension, and there were times when we felt a bit distant, but I always thought that was just a normal part of marriage. Lisa had this way of lighting up a room when she walked in, with her infectious laughter and that playful smile that made everything feel okay. However, as time went on, there were signs that something was off. Small things added up, like how she started spending more time on her phone, texting in secret, or stepping out for errands when she didn't need to. She became more critical, too. Things I did or said began to irritate her more than they used to. I brushed it off. After all, life gets busy, right? But then came the day that changed everything. It was just a regular Saturday. I was cleaning out our bedroom because I figured it was time to tackle the mess that had accumulated over the years. As I was rummaging through her nightstand, I stumbled upon a small velvet ring box. My heart raced a little at first. I thought maybe she was planning a surprise for me. But when I opened it, the excitement turned into confusion and then into despair. The ring inside wasn't mine. Hell, it wasn't even hers. It was a beautiful diamond ring, something you'd expect to see in an engagement announcement, but that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that I had no idea how long it had been there, and it shattered everything I had believed about our relationship. This beautiful ring was a glaring sign of betrayal, and I couldn't help but feel the icy grip of dread settle in my stomach. I spent the next few hours in a state of shock. I thought about every little thing that had been bothering me about her lately, and it all started clicking into place. I remembered the late nights she claimed were work-related, the unexplained absences, and the way she would rush to put her phone away whenever I walked in the room. My mind raced with all the scenarios of who she could be seeing, and it was eating me alive. When Lisa finally came home, she was cheerful, vibrant, completely unaware that I was holding this damning evidence of her infidelity. The duality of her behavior twisted my insides. I knew I had to confront her, but I wanted to gather my thoughts. I played it cool, acting as if nothing was wrong, while inside I was a storm ready to break. That night, as we sat across from each other at dinner, every bite felt like chewing on glass. I could barely look at her without thinking about that ring. It took every ounce of strength not to lash out, but the moment her laughter rang in my ears, I decided it was time to end the charade. "Lisa, can we talk?" I finally said, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked at me, her smile faltering just a bit. "Of course, what's up?" I took a deep breath, my heart pounding like a war drum. I couldn't let her brush me off. "I found something in your drawer today." Her expression shifted subtly, and in that moment I knew she realized what I was talking about. "Okay," she said, feigning innocence. "That ring, it's not mine, and it sure as hell isn't yours, so what's going on here?" Her reaction was immediate. The mask slipped, and I was met with a storm of emotions. The lies, the deceit, all of it played out in front of me, and I was left reeling. She stammered, looking for words, her face paling as if she'd just been caught in a terrible act. "It's not what you think," she insisted, her tone defensive. "I was going to tell you, I swear." Those words hit me like a slap. She was going to tell me when. If I hadn't found that ring, would she have taken it to her grave? I felt anger bubbling inside me, mixing with the heartbreak, and I desperately tried to gather my thoughts. "Tell me what, Lisa? That you're cheating on me? That you've been lying to my face?" Her excuses were half-hearted and flimsy, as if she was throwing darts in the dark, hoping something would stick. I could see the panic in her eyes as she desperately tried to weave a narrative that might save her from the inevitable fallout. The betrayal cut deep, and I could feel every layer of trust we had built together crumbling to dust. I was supposed to be her partner, her confidant, not some fool who was blind to her infidelities. As I listened to her talk, my mind began to spiral. The love we shared felt like a distant memory, replaced by anger and sorrow. I had a decision to make, and I had to decide quickly. The stakes were high, and I was determined to get answers, but part of me wondered if I was ready for the truth. In that moment, I experienced a whirlwind of emotions. I was angry, sad, confused, but above all, I felt betrayed. The woman I thought I loved had crafted a beautiful lie, and I was the unwitting victim. How could I move forward from this? I needed to figure that out. As Lisa continued with her desperate excuses, I felt a mixture of disbelief and deep-seated anger. She insisted that I was misinterpreting everything, that the ring wasn't what I thought. "It's a family heirloom," she claimed, her voice quaking slightly. "I was going to tell you about it, but I wanted it to be a surprise." A surprise? My mind raced with the absurdity of her words. I had seen enough romantic comedies to know how this script was supposed to play out, but this was no movie. This was real life, and the betrayal seeped into every fiber of my being. I wasn't buying her excuses, and yet there she was, shaking and pleading, trying to salvage whatever she could from the wreckage. "Lisa, how can you expect me to believe that? You've changed, and I've noticed. The late nights, the phone calls that go unanswered, the way you look at me like I'm a stranger, and now this." I gestured toward the ring box still sitting on the table between us, a tangible representation of her deceit. She opened her mouth, probably to throw out another flimsy excuse, but I cut her off. "No more lies, Lisa. I want the truth. Who is he?" The question hung heavily in the air, and for the first time I could see fear flicker across her face as she processed my words. "What do you mean, who is?" "He," she stammered, her facade crumbling. It was as if the bright, bubbly woman I loved was shattering before my eyes, revealing someone desperate and cornered. "There's no one else, I swear." "Then explain the ring. Explain why you've been acting like a completely different person." My temper flared, and I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks. This was not how I imagined our life together. This was not what I signed up for. She sat back, visibly agitated, rubbing her temples as if trying to ward off a headache. "I don't know how it got there. I must have forgotten it was in there. Maybe it's a friend's or something. I promise I'm not cheating on you." I let out a bitter laugh, the sound foreign to my own ears. "A friend? Who gives a friend a diamond ring? You expect me to believe that? You're grasping at straws, Lisa. You need to come clean." At that moment, I felt a wave of sadness wash over me, and I realized how much I wanted to believe her. I wanted to think that the woman I loved could still be there beneath the lies, but the weight of the situation was too heavy, and I could feel my resolve hardening. "Fine, let's say you're right. Let's say it's not what it looks like," I said, trying to maintain a tone of calmness. "But what does that say about you? You've hidden this from me. You've lied, and I deserve better than that." With every accusation, I could see her body language shift. She was no longer the confident woman I married, but rather a fragile figure, clinging onto whatever dignity she had left. "I'm so sorry, really. I didn't mean to hurt you. It was just a mistake." A mistake? The word felt like a punch to my gut. What mistake involves hiding a ring in a drawer? You don't just accidentally forget about something like that. You forget about bills or the grocery list, not a diamond ring. Silence fell between us, thick and suffocating. It was as if we were standing on the edge of a ravine, and one wrong word could send everything tumbling into the abyss. I could feel the tension crackling, and I realized I needed to give her one last chance to come clean. "Lisa, if you're seeing someone else, just tell me. I promise I won't freak out, at least not in the way you think. If you're in love with someone else, maybe we can figure this out, but lying to me, that's a betrayal I can't accept." Her eyes darted around the room as she processed my words. I watched as tears formed in her eyes, and for a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy, but the anger quickly drowned it out. "I swear I'm not seeing anyone else. Just please believe me." My heart sank as I realized how far gone we were. Trust, once foundational to our relationship, was now a fragile shell ready to shatter with the slightest touch. "Then prove it. Show me your phone. Let's see the texts, the calls, everything." I could see the panic flare in her eyes, but she hesitated. "You don't need to see my phone. Trust me, it's nothing. Just give me time to explain." Time to lie to me some more. "No, Lisa, this is it. Either you show me the truth or I'm done." My voice was steady, almost cold, but inside I was boiling. I had never imagined I would be in a position where I had to demand proof of fidelity from the person I loved most. Finally, she relented, pulling her phone from her pocket with trembling hands. She handed it over, her expression a mixture of fear and defiance. "If you go through it, you'll see nothing, I promise." I took the phone, my heart racing. I scrolled through her messages, my eyes scanning for anything suspicious. It felt like an eternity, but I needed to know. As I flipped through the texts, I found nothing overtly incriminating, just mundane conversations with friends and coworkers. But then I stumbled onto a group chat with a few emojis and flirty innuendos that made my stomach churn. My heart dropped, and as I dug deeper, it became evident that there was more to this story than she was letting on. "Who is Jake? Why are you talking to him like this?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper as I pointed to the screen. Her face went pale and I could see the realization settle in. I can explain. Right then I felt the ground beneath me shift. It was like watching a dam break, water rushing forward to drown everything in its path. I was left standing in a flood of emotions, betrayal, sadness, and a deep, gnawing sense of loss. I didn't want to believe this was happening. Was there any way to salvage our marriage? Could I ever trust her again? As I continued to process the betrayal, I knew I had to confront the reality of our situation, and it was going to be hard. The road ahead was uncertain, and I was about to face the toughest decision of my life. The tension in the room was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. As I stared at Lisa, trying to reconcile the woman I loved with the person who had betrayed me, I felt a wave of emotions crash over me. There was anger, sadness, disbelief, and an overwhelming sense of loss. It was as if my entire world had been turned upside down and I was struggling to find solid ground. "Jake," I repeated, my voice trembling with a mix of fury and disbelief. "Who the hell is he?" Lisa's gaze shifted and I watched. Her expression morphed from panic to something resembling guilt. "He's just a friend from work," she said, her voice small. "We joke around sometimes, but it's nothing serious." "Nothing serious?" I echoed, incredulous. "That doesn't look like nothing serious to me. You don't flirt with friends like that, Lisa. It's disrespectful to me, to our marriage." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. The silence stretched between us, and I could see the wheels turning in her head as she searched for a way to spin this. Finally, she sighed, her shoulders drooping. "You're right, I shouldn't have let it get that far. I never meant for it to happen. It was a stupid mistake." "A mistake?" I snapped, my anger boiling over. "This isn't just a mistake, Lisa. This is a choice. You made a choice to lie to me, to betray our vows. Do you even understand how serious this is?" "I do. I swear I do," she pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. "I've been feeling so lost lately, and I thought I could just have a little fun. I didn't think it would go this far. I didn't mean to hurt you." The dam of emotions burst, and I could feel the heat of rage coursing through my veins. "You didn't think?" I shot back, my voice rising. "What were you thinking exactly? That this wouldn't affect me, that I wouldn't find out? Do you have any idea what it feels like to be betrayed by the person you trust most?" Lisa looked down at her hands, and I could see the shame etched on her face. "I know I've messed up. I messed up big time, but can't we work through this? I love you and I want to fix it." "Love." The word felt hollow coming from her lips. "You love me," I said, my voice low and cold. "You love me, yet you're out there flirting with another man. You're hiding things from me. How can I trust you?" "I'll do anything to prove it to you," she cried, her voice breaking. "Just give me a chance. Let's go to counseling or something. I'll cut off contact with Jake. I'll do whatever it takes." I could see the desperation in her eyes, but the bitterness in my heart was hard to ignore. "You think that's enough? You think that just saying I'm sorry will fix this?" I shook my head, overwhelmed by the weight of my emotions. "I don't even know if I want to work on this right now. You've shattered everything we built together." Lisa reached for my hand, but I pulled away sharply. "Don't," I said, the rejection stinging both of us. "You don't get to decide how this plays out. You put us in this mess, and now I have to figure out what to do with the pieces." It was at that moment that I felt an overwhelming wave of sadness wash over me. I never wanted to be here, fighting for a relationship that felt like it was slipping through my fingers. I wanted to scream, to cry, to lash out at the unfairness of it all. But instead, I felt paralyzed by the decision looming ahead. Could I trust her again? Should I even consider forgiving her? The thought of starting over with someone else scared me, but the idea of staying felt equally daunting. I had never thought my marriage would come to this battlefield of broken promises and shattered trust. "I think I need some time to think," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. The weight of those words felt like a heavy stone dropped into a still pond, sending ripples of uncertainty across the surface of my heart. Lisa's eyes widened and I could see the panic rise within her. Please don't say that. I can change. Just give me a chance to make this right. But can you really change? I pressed, my heart aching as I watched the fear flicker in her expression. That's the question, isn't it? Can you genuinely commit to being honest and faithful to me after what you've done? She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. Instead, she sat there quietly, tears streaming down her cheeks, and it was clear she didn't have the answers I needed to hear. I felt the anguish inside me swell, and I was struck by how completely lost I felt. I had loved this woman, shared my life and dreams with her, and now it was all hanging by a thread. I thought about my friends, my family, and how they would react if they knew what was happening. The shame of it all weighed heavily on my shoulders. I need to figure this out on my own, I said, forcing myself to stand. The act felt monumental, like summoning the last shreds of strength I had left. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep pretending everything is okay when it's not. Wait, she called as I turned to leave, her voice trembling with desperation. What if you leave and find out I was right? What if I really do love you and I can change? You'll be throwing everything away. I paused, my back still turned to her. I don't know if I can believe that anymore. I need to protect myself, Lisa. I need to think about what's best for me. With that, I walked out of the room, leaving her behind. Each step felt heavier than the last as I made my way to the living room, where I sank into the couch, my mind racing with a million thoughts. It was hard to breathe as I processed everything that had just happened. I felt betrayed, heartbroken, and utterly lost. I didn't know what lay ahead, but one thing was clear. My life was forever changed, and I needed to figure out what I wanted going forward. Would I be able to forgive Lisa? Could I ever trust her again? As the weight of uncertainty settled in my chest, I realized that the journey to find those answers would not be easy. Sitting on the couch, the silence in the house felt deafening. I could still hear Lisa's voice echoing in my mind, pleading, begging, trying to convince me that things could go back to the way they were. But could they? I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The world I thought I knew had crumbled into dust, and I was standing amidst the wreckage, unsure of what to do next. Time slowed as I sat there, my thoughts racing in every direction. I couldn't deny that there had been a shift in our relationship over the past few months. The late nights, her sudden need for privacy, and the little lies, it all added up to something sinister. I had been brushing off my instincts for too long, convincing myself that it was just the stress of life. But now, I realized I had been living in a delusion, trying to see the best in a situation that had turned toxic. I glanced towards the kitchen where Lisa was still sitting, her sobs muffled by the walls that felt like they were closing in on us. The painful image of her tear-streaked face left me feeling hollow. I had loved this woman, and now I was watching her unravel right before my eyes. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for her. She was hurting too, though her choices had led us both to this moment. But sympathy wasn't enough to mend the betrayal. I felt like I was standing on the precipice of a decision that could change my life forever. I needed clarity, a way forward, but my heart was conflicted. After what felt like an eternity, I decided to take a walk. I needed space to breathe and think without the weight of Lisa's emotions crashing down on me. I grabbed my jacket and headed out the door, the cool evening air hitting my face like a splash of cold water. At first, I just walked aimlessly, my mind racing with memories of our wedding day, our laughter, and the plans we had made for our future. But now those memories felt tainted, each one marred by the realization that our love had been built on a foundation of lies. I found myself at a nearby park, the sun setting in the distance, casting an orange glow over the trees. I sat on a bench and let the stillness of the surroundings wash over me. As I stared off into the horizon, my thoughts shifted to the practicalities of what lay ahead. I needed to consider my options. Part of me wanted to fight for our marriage, to believe that we could work through this mess and come out stronger on the other side. But another part of me screamed that I would be setting myself up for more heartache. The trust had been shattered, and rebuilding it would take time and effort. efforts I wasn't sure Lisa was willing or capable of making. I pulled out my phone, contemplating whether or not I should reach out to friends for advice. But then I hesitated. I didn't want to air our dirty laundry to everyone I knew. I needed to handle this privately on my terms. As I sat there, my thoughts drifting, I felt a wave of sadness wash over me. I thought of the vows we had taken, the promises we had made to each other. I had meant every word, but now those words felt like a cruel joke. After a while, I decided to head back home. I needed to face Lisa again, to look her in the eye and see if there was a glimmer of remorse or honesty in her. As I walked back, I steeled myself for the confrontation. This time I would not let her manipulate the narrative. I would demand answers and I wouldn't back down. When I returned, I found Lisa sitting on the couch, her eyes red and puffy from crying. I took a deep breath and sat down across from her, maintaining a safe distance as if we were two strangers instead of husband and wife. "I need you to be completely honest with me," I said, my voice steady. "No more excuses, no more lies. Just tell me exactly what's been going on." She looked at me, her expression a mixture of fear and desperation. "I promise I'll tell you everything, just please don't leave." I nodded, urging her to continue. "Start from the beginning. When did it begin?" Taking a deep breath, she began to recount her story, how she had met Jake at work, how they started chatting over lunch, and how those innocent conversations had rapidly spiraled into something inappropriate. I listened, my heart feeling heavier with every word. "There was nothing physical at first," she insisted, her voice quaking. "But then it turned into flirty texts, and I got caught up in the thrill of it all. I didn't think it would go this far. I didn't mean to hurt you." I could feel the anger rising within me again, but I took a moment to collect myself. "Did you ever think about how I would feel, how this would affect our marriage?" "I was being selfish," she admitted, tears spilling from her eyes. "I got lost in the excitement, and I didn't realize how much I was risking until it was too late." "I'm so sorry, truly." "Sorry doesn't change what's happened," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "You need to understand how serious this is. You need to understand that you've broken my trust, and once that's gone, it's incredibly hard to get back." I know. I'll do anything to make it right," she pleaded, reaching out to grasp my hand. I flinched at her touch, pulling away instinctively. "I don't know if you can ever make this right," I said, my heart aching at the words. "You need to understand that cheating isn't just about the physical act, it's about the betrayal of trust. You've turned our marriage into a lie." I could see the realization dawn on her face, and it hit me that this was the moment of truth. Could I really find it in myself to forgive her? Could we go back to being the couple we used to be, or was this the end of the line? As we sat in silence, I could feel the weight of the decision resting heavy on my shoulders. I had to think about what I wanted for my future, and whether that future included Lisa. "Right now I need space," I finally said, breaking the silence. "I need time to process all of this. I don't know what the next step is, but I can't make any decisions while emotions are still running high." Her face fell, and I could see the panic creeping back in. "Please don't say that. I can change. I swear I can change. I love you and I don't want to lose you. I need to figure things out for myself first," I said firmly. "You may not want to hear this, but I can't trust you right now. I don't even know if I can look at you the same way again." As I stood to leave the room, I could hear her sobs behind me. I felt a part of me shatter with every step I took, knowing that the woman I had loved for so long was slipping away, and I could do nothing to stop it. In that moment, I realized that I had a long road ahead of me, one filled with difficult decisions and painful choices. The journey of healing would be complex, and I had to be ready to face whatever came next. The days that followed felt surreal, a blur of emotions and thoughts swirling around in my mind. I set up a temporary living arrangement for myself in the guest room, giving both Lisa and me space to breathe. Every time I passed her in the hall, the tension smothered me, and I felt like we were living in two different worlds, separated by a chasm formed by betrayal and lies. Lisa tried to reach out, to talk, to plead her case, but I found it increasingly difficult to listen. Each time she stepped forward, I stepped back. Part of me wanted to forgive her. I wanted to believe that the woman I loved could emerge from the wreckage of her mistakes. But the other part, the part that felt the sting of betrayal, clung to my anger, my hurt. I wasn't ready to let that go. I spent hours each day thinking about our life together, reminiscing about the small moments that made us a couple. I thought of our wedding day, the honeymoon, the laughter we shared over mundane things, and the dreams we built for the future. But now, those memories felt tainted. They were colored by the knowledge that Lisa had invited someone else into our lives, someone who did belong there. After a few days of isolation, I decided that I needed to talk to someone outside of this mess. I called my best friend Matt, who had been my confidant through thick and thin. When he answered, I could hear the concern in his voice. "Hey man, you sounded off when you called. What's going on?" I took a deep breath before pouring out the details of the situation. As I spoke, I felt a mix of relief and guilt. I knew that I was exposing Lisa's mistakes, but I also felt the weight lift off my shoulders as I shared my pain. Matt listened patiently, only interjecting occasionally to express his disbelief at Lisa's actions. "Dude, I can't believe she would do that to you," he finally said. "You're one of the good ones. You don't deserve that." "I know," I replied, my voice heavy with sorrow. "But it still hurts like hell. I don't even know if I want to try to make it work anymore." "Have you thought about what you really want?" he asked, his tone serious. "Do you want to try to save your marriage, or are you leaning toward moving on?" The question hung in the air between us, and I felt a knot form in my stomach. I don't know. Part of me wants to fight for us, but another part just wants to cut my losses and walk away. I can't keep wondering if she'll hurt me again. "Take your time with it," Matt advised. "But remember, whatever decision you make, it has to be for you. Don't let her manipulate you back into something you're not ready for." His words resonated with me, and I took a moment to digest them. I needed to put myself first, to think about what was best for my own healing. I thanked him for his support, promising to keep him updated on what happened next. As I hung up, a sense of clarity washed over me. I realized that I hadn't really given myself the chance to process my feelings. I had been so focused on Lisa's actions that I hadn't taken the time to evaluate my own emotions fully. What did I want? What did I need? It was time to confront those questions head-on. I spent the next few days reflecting on all aspects of our relationship, the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly. I wrote down my thoughts in a journal, pouring out my heart onto the pages. I detailed my frustrations, my anger, and my sadness, but I also reminded myself of the love I once felt for Lisa. Finally, I realized I needed to have another conversation with her. I didn't know what it would lead to, but I recognized that we owed it to each other to discuss the truth, without the emotions clouding our judgment. That evening, I called Lisa into the living room. I could see the hesitation in her eyes as she walked in, but I forced myself to remain calm. "We need to talk," I said, gesturing to the space on the couch beside me. She sat down, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I'm really sorry for everything, you know that, right? I just want to fix this." I nodded, but I didn't respond immediately. I needed her to understand that the path forward wouldn't be easy. "I've spent a lot of time thinking," I finally said, my voice steady, "and I need to know where you stand. Do you truly want to save our marriage, or are you just scared of the consequences of losing me?" "I want to save it," she replied quickly, earnestness etched on her face. "I realize how stupid I've been, and I don't want to lose you. You mean everything to me." There was a sincerity in her voice that caught me off guard, and for a moment I felt a glimmer of hope, but I knew better than to take her words at face value. "What does that mean for you, though? Are you willing to put in the work to earn back my trust? Because I need to know you're committed to changing." "I'll do whatever it takes," she said, her voice rising in desperation. "I'll stop talking to Jake, I'll go to counseling, and I'll be completely open with you. Just give me a chance." The sincerity in her eyes wavered as I weighed my options. Deep down, I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that love could conquer this betrayal, but I also feared getting hurt again. "It's not just about you saying those things," I said, trying to keep my tone even. "You have to show me. I need to see real effort, real change. Words alone won't cut it anymore." "I understand," she said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I'll prove it to you, just please don't give up on us. We can work through this together." I felt the weight of her plea, and for the first time since this all began, I felt a flicker of something. A hope, perhaps. It was buried beneath layers of hurt and distrust, but it was there. "Let's take it one step at a time," I said, cautious yet hopeful. We can start with counseling and see where we go from there. But understand this, I won't tolerate any more lies or deceit. If you mess up again, I'm done." Lisa nodded earnestly, her eyes filled with remorse. "I promise I won't. I'm willing to do whatever it takes." As we sat there, the heaviness of the situation still loomed, but there was a flicker of possibility, a chance for us to rebuild. The road would be long, filled with bumps and obstacles, but perhaps it was one worth taking. I knew. It wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a while, I felt like we were working towards something rather than fighting against it. I took a deep breath and allowed myself to hope, just a little. The journey wouldn't be quick, but maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for healing. The weeks that followed our heart-to-heart were a whirlwind of emotions. Lisa and I started couples counseling, and to my surprise, she was genuinely committed to the process. Each session was challenging. We had to unravel the threads of pain and betrayal that had woven themselves tightly into the fabric of our marriage. But beneath the tension, I could see glimmers of the woman I had fallen in love with, the partner I had once cherished. At first, it was awkward, like trying to dance with two left feet. Lisa would often share her vulnerabilities, revealing the insecurities that had driven her to seek validation outside our relationship. I learned about the pressures she felt at work, the friends who had encouraged her flirty behavior, and how she had convinced herself that her actions wouldn't hurt me. It was as if she had built a wall around herself. And only through counseling were we starting to break it down. As difficult as it was, I found myself appreciating the honesty in our sessions. I could see Lisa struggling to confront her mistakes, and while it didn't erase the hurt, it did give me a sense that she was willing to change. With every session, we learned to communicate better, to articulate our feelings without jumping to defensiveness or blame. It was exhausting at times, but it was also enlightening. There were moments when I felt a rush of anger, when I would remember the deceit or the pain she had caused. But as I listened to her share her side, I found a glimmer of compassion growing in my heart. I realized that while I didn't condone her actions, I could still understand the human side of her struggles. One evening, while sitting on the couch together after a particularly intense session, Lisa turned to me, her voice trembling. "I never want to hurt you again. I've been so selfish, and I know I can't erase the past, but I want to build a future with you. I'm committed to making this work." I looked into her eyes and saw sincerity, a mix of fear and hope. The woman sitting beside me was a wounded version of the partner I had once loved, but I could see the strength within her. It was a long road ahead, and I knew that rebuilding trust wouldn't happen overnight, but I felt something stirring within me, an ember of hope that maybe we could emerge from this stronger than before. "Trust takes time, Lisa," I reminded her gently, "but I'm willing to try as long as you are." With each passing day, we started to reestablish our connection. We began doing little things together, cooking meals, taking long walks, and even laughing over silly movies. It was like we were traversing uncharted territory, rediscovering each other while being careful not to step on the landmines of the past. Though the shadows of betrayal lingered, I was learning to let some of the hurt go. I focused on the present, on the small moments that reminded me of why I fell in love with Lisa in the first place. The warmth of her laughter, the way she would curl up on the couch beside me, and the little notes she began leaving. Around the house filled with encouragement and love, they all served as reminders that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. Of course, there were still tough days, times when memories of betrayal would hit me like a wave, and I'd feel the weight of doubt creeping back in. But during those nights, I would remind myself of the steps we were taking together, the commitment we had made to heal. One night, as we lay in bed, I turned to her and said, "I have to admit, I'm scared. I'm scared we'll fall back into old patterns, that I'll be hurt again." She took my hand, squeezing it tightly. "I'm scared too, but I promise I'll fight for us. I'll work every day to earn back your trust. I want to be the partner you deserve." Her words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, offering comfort even in the face of uncertainty. In that moment, I realized that while we could never erase the betrayal, we could use it as a catalyst for growth. As months passed, our relationship began to shift. We started to open up more, discussing not just the pain but also our dreams and aspirations. We started planning our future again, even if it felt tentative. We talked about travel, about family, about our hopes for a life together. I began to see the light again, the spark that had drawn us to each other in the first place. It was as if we were being reborn, like a phoenix rising from the ashes of our broken trust. Eventually, I found myself laughing more. I felt the weight of resentment begin to lift, replaced by a renewed sense of partnership and commitment. Lisa continued to show me her dedication through actions, not just words. She was transparent with her phone, her schedule, and her friendships. She even distanced herself from Jake entirely, cutting ties to ensure there were no lingering connections. Finally, one evening after dinner, I turned to her, looking deep into her eyes. I know we've been through hell, but I'm starting to believe in us again. I want to move forward, but I need to ask, are you fully committed to this? Her answer came quickly, without hesitation. Absolutely. I'll never take you for granted again. I promise to be better. We can do this. Together. As I listened to her words, I felt a flood of warmth wash over me. It wasn't just the promise of a future. It was the acknowledgement of our shared struggle, the recognition that we both had work to do. In the end, I realized that love isn't just about the beautiful moments. It's also about navigating the storms together. It requires honesty, vulnerability, and a willingness to forgive. I had learned that while betrayal can leave scars, healing is possible if both partners are willing to put in the effort. As we moved forward, I knew we would face more challenges. Trust is a fragile thing, and we would have to nurture it diligently. But I also knew that with effort and understanding, we could rebuild the foundation of our love. And perhaps in the end, our story would be one of resilience, a testament to the power of love, growth, and the human spirit.